Easy, kid, Love said in a soothing voice. Like I said, it's not the real Mothman. Sam's vision, which had become increasingly dark and tunneled since the moment his neck snapped upward to behold the Mothman but not Mothman, began to clear. He realized that in the interim 3 seconds since first seeing the horrid beastie, he had somehow maximized his distance from it by attaching himself to the farthest, darkest corner in the room. Try as he might, he wasn't able to phase through the wall to further hide himself. Not, Sam stuttered, the real Mothman? That's right, Love answered as he walked over to Sam's tense form and closely checked the bandages that were doing their best to keep Sam's wounds healing. It's just an illusion. A damn good illusion, but an illusion nonetheless. Wait, did you think you really destroyed the Mothman tonight? Love let out an honest laugh, deep and long, that actually eased some of the tension in the room for just a moment. Sam remained glued to the corner, eyes wild and fixed on Mothman, as though any moment it might descend into the room. An illusion, Sam! Look! Love said, gesturing to a table that was cluttered in a way Sam supposed only a wizard's desk could be. Parchment with strange symbols written on it littered a cherry wood desk that was further splattered by splotches of ink, both dry and wet, of almost every color imaginable. Nestled between these parchments stood little figurines of dense clay, all shaped like various beasties, some of which Sam recognized and others that were foreign to him. Embedded in the head of each figure shined small gemstones, each as varied and beautiful as the beasties they crowned. These are veil golems, Love continued, once again affecting a lecturing tone. Mere copies of the beasties they represent. All you need to do is get your hands on some creation clay. Creation clay? Sam interrupted. Yes, creation clay, Love answered. Clay gathered from the Netapan area where a beastie was laid to rest. You shape it in the form of your beastie of choice, pop in a veil shard, which is just a fragment of the veil that shattered 10 years ago now, and voila, you have a veil golem. And just like that, Sam scoffed sarcastically. Correct, Love responded, either not noticing Sam's tone or choosing to ignore it. Of course you have to then infuse it with enough aura to take flight, so to speak. So, Sam began, still with a voice lowered to a whisper and still instilled with instinctual terror as he gazed upon Mothman, golem or not. That thing up there is made of clay? Why do I still feel so... So scared? Love finished for him. You feel terror because, despite just being clay, each veil golem takes on the attributes of the beastie they mimic. I will say that this golem, while only having about 1/100th of the aura of actual Mothman, was certainly sufficient enough to keep them at bay. Them? Sam whispered, still not convinced that the Mothman golem was harmless, but curious despite his fear. Love then groaned, which was more croak than groan, and put his slimy hands over his eyes as he remembered their current predicament. Them! Those casters and beasties that have been attacking my castle for the last 3 nights. Those casters and beasties that the veil golem was meant to ward off before your merry band came and ruined everything. Now, there's no way they'll be convinced that the Mothman is actually being contracted by me. Who and why? Sam questioned. Why would anybody attack this old castle? Maybe an old grudge, Sam thought to himself. This old frog seems like the kind of person, or thing, that gets mixed in with the wrong crowd. Love gave out a brief snort of a laugh that contained none of the mirth of his previous bellow, and then fell silent. Sam, Love began, quieter now than before. I don't know how much of the world you've seen at such a young age, but what are you, 10? Very hard to tell with you normal humans, but dark forces are amassing in the north along the border. This wasn't news to Sam. Ever since the veil shattered, dark forces were always on the move. The beasties that seeped into the world were just as complex in nature as the humans that ran from them, and in their ranks, good and evil stood in strong contrast. The casters that sought to control them had just as many varied intentions, and in the past 10 years the Cryptid Nation had been lit aflame by more than a dozen wars, crusades, raids, and dark marches by the ambitious. And then there were the evergreen casters. War was war, just like from before the veil shattered. War was a machine, one of the few that remained functional since the shattering, and the magic kept it well oiled. Dark forces are always amassing. There are always wars. Unity City always squashes them, Sam said, reflecting his internal thoughts and trying not to look up.
No,
Love whispered, gazing into the flames, which were licking the top of the fireplace.
No, not like this. Never like this. Not for many years. I suspect more than one evergreen caster is at play here, and the world is about to change.
Great. So dark masses are amassing, and that has to do with an old castle and a frogman caster in Ohio. How exactly? Sam asked. Love gestured to the oaken shelves.
There's power in these spell books,
Love began.
Old power. Whatever or whoever is responsible for gathering darkness has put out the word. Collect as many spell books as possible. Collect as much power as possible.
Sam, still too paralyzed to move much, stood gawking at the strange caster, waiting for him to continue.
Those attacking my castle are after the secrets contained within these halls, and they intend to bend these powers to whatever dark will is driving them.
Love concluded matter-of-factly. So you're pretty powerful as well, right? Sam asked. Why not just wipe the floor with these guys?
Dangered!
Love exclaimed, projecting enough force with the word to rattle the bookshelves that contained the sought-after power.
You don't think I didn't try that before?
Love, now looking more defeated and sore than Sam felt, deflated into the divan with a sigh.
My boy,
Love continued quietly,
I've tried everything. If this were a normal caster, my spells would have worked. But whoever sent them must have done their research, because I believe the caster is a beastie.
The fact that a beastie could also be a caster stopped being strange to Sam the moment he got his butt handed to him by a large frog dressed up as a wizard. No, what was strange was that the caster being a beastie somehow prevented Love from attacking it. So what? Sam responded, his eyes occasionally flickering upward towards the Mothman golem. Just wipe the floor with this magical beastie. Who cares?
I can't,
Love explained. You can't? Sam questioned.
I can't,
Love repeated, followed by another croaking sigh. Sam could tell, despite his current panicked state, that Love himself was beginning to get antsy. Just what was going to happen? Why would such a powerful caster be scared? Who was outside the castle walls?
I can't because whatever curse transformed me into this handsome frogman you see before you also prevents me from directly attacking any beastie.
What? Sam began, more confused than ever.
Look, boy, suffice it to say, I can't attack beasties. It's a long story, and we don't have time for a storybook tale by the fireplace.
A silence fell in the room, interrupted only by the crackling of the fireplace's flame.
In any event,
Love said more gently,
I don't believe the Mothman golem is going to be sufficiently convincing. Loveland Castle will come under attack for the second time in a single night. Sam, I will need... Sam?
Love finally noticed that Sam was still fused to the corner of the room and hidden within the shadows, terrified despite his attempts to hide it. Looking upward toward the flying Mothman golem, Love cursed again in a foreign language.
Sorry, kid,
Love said soothingly.
Please forgive me. You clearly have some painful history with the Mothman. Who doesn't these days? But you will have to tell me about it when we aren't pressed for time. While I couldn't dream of releasing the golem's contract, I can remove the window.
Remove the window? Sam thought, perplexed. Love gave a brief tap of his staff onto the marble floor, and the window, or what Sam thought was a window until just a moment ago, turned into a blanket that slowly fell into the divan like a falling leaf. Its dark green color was decorated with designs that were simultaneously chaotic and yet somehow organized and beautiful.
A squatch poncho,
Love said, amused.
Woven from the fur of a Sasquatch beastie that turns invisible when in close proximity to a forest. Very rare. Very useful for when you want to create impromptu magical windows.
While Sam could still feel the Mothman golem outside like a sharp ringing in the back of his head, the effect had been dramatically reduced with the removal of the squatch poncho. Sam slid down the wall and collapsed into an exhausted puddle, trying to catch his breath.
Sam,
Love said once he saw that Sam had finally relaxed.
I'm going to need your help.